blame is not always about the truth. Sometimes blame is about protection, protection from shame, protection from guilt, protection from the painful possibility that we may have played a part in the problem. This is why some people blame others so quickly, not because they are always right, but because looking inward feels too threatening. The ego does not like feeling exposed. It does not like admitting, I was wrong. It does not like saying, I hurt someone. It does not like facing the truth that its choices had consequences. So instead of reflection, it chooses defense. Instead of honesty, it chooses accusation. Instead of growth, it chooses blame. Blame gives quick emotional relief. For a moment, the person feels innocent. The pressure moves away from them. The discomfort becomes someone else's responsibility. They no longer have to sit with shame. They no longer have to ask, what did I do? They only have to say, look what you did. Carl Jung once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But that kind of understanding requires courage, because it is easier to criticize someone else than to examine yourself. It is easier to point outward than to look inward. It is easier to protect your image than to repair your behavior. And this is where emotional immaturity begins. A mature person can say, maybe I contributed to this. A mature person can listen without immediately defending. A mature person can separate guilt from growth. But someone who cannot tolerate shame will often turn every problem into someone else's fault. If they hurt you, they blame your sensitivity. If they neglect you, they blame your expectations. They disrespect you, they blame your reaction. They fail, they blame the world. If a relationship breaks, they only remember what the other person did wrong. This is how blame protects the ego. It keeps the person from feeling responsible, but it also keeps them from changing. Because the moment you make everything someone else's fault, you give away your own power to grow. You cannot fix what you refuse to see. You cannot heal what you keep denying. You cannot become emotionally mature if every mirror feels like an attack. Sigmund Freud once said, being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. And maybe that is the exercise many people avoid. Honesty with the self can feel uncomfortable, but it is also where freedom begins. Because when you stop blaming everyone for everything, you begin to see your own patterns. You begin to notice how you respond, how you avoid, how you defend, how you repeat the same conflict with different people. And this does not mean everything is your fault. It does not mean you should accept blame that does not belong to you. It does not mean you should excuse people who harmed you. But it means real growth begins when you can ask, what is mine to learn here? That question's powerful because it does not make you weak. It makes you conscious. Blame says, I am innocent, so I do not have to change. Growth says, I am human, so I am willing to learn. And that is the difference. Blame may protect the ego, but it weakens the character. It may help someone feel right, but it keeps them emotionally stuck. It may win an argument, but it can lose trust. Because people do not feel safe around someone who can never take responsibility. They start walking carefully, they stop telling the truth, they stop sharing pain, they learn that every conversation will become a defense, and slowly connection disappears. So when someone always blames others, understand what may be happening underneath. They may be protecting an ego that is too fragile to face itself, but also remember this. You cannot force someone to become self-aware. You can only decide how much of their blame you are willing to carry. Because not every accusation deserves your explanation, and not every person who blames you is ready to understand themselves. Quiet Psychology. Thank you for watching.